Good evening. Hi, my name's Travis Bickford, and I am the head of programs and communications for the Veterans History Project. I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. I'm pretty sure you're going to feel inspired. Now, I got a little bit of a long list of thank yous, or more thank yous to offer here, so just bear with me. First, I want to thank Steve Grundman and the Atlantic Council. I want to thank New Light Theater Project, Pendragon Theater, the wonderful cast, the director, Sarah Norse, the author, Michelle Colos Brooks, and also my colleagues at the Veterans History Project. Particularly for this event tonight, Owen Rogers, who ran point. Great job, buddy. You know, it's funny. I think this nation does a great job of educating its people about what war is. But I think one area where we could do a lot better is educating people about who war is. And I think you're gonna, tonight's show is gonna help with that. But also, I also really wanna thank the founder of the Veterans History Project, former Congressman Ron Kind. You see, he's gonna give you a little more info on how this all came about, but I can say one thing, I guarantee he wasn't the first member of Congress to have the same revelation that he had. He was just the first one to actually do something about it. So thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Travis. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad you're able to make tonight's production of War Words, and I want to congratulate Michelle, for her vision, her creativity, what she did to create this production. You're in one of America's greatest treasures that we have, the Library of Congress. If you haven't been here before, spend some time, get to know it. It truly is remarkable. I used to co-chair the Friends of the Library of Congress caucus when I was serving in Congress for 26 years. So this place has special meaning for members of Congress and for the American people. But we're here tonight to hear this production of War Words based on interviews conducted from Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. And later this evening, Michelle has agreed to donate 5 of those veteran interviews to the Veterans History Project. As Travis said, I helped create that through legislation over 20 years ago now. And the genesis of that was over a picnic table on Father's Day weekend when my dad, who was Korea-era veteran, and my Uncle Donnie, his brother, who was World War II, who flew bomber missions in the Pacific, finally talked about their experience for the first time with me. And I'd never heard these stories before. And my wife, Tawny, who's in the audience with us here tonight, our 2 boys were just toddlers at the time. And I thought, this is important, and I need to preserve this, if nothing less than for my son's benefit. So I told my dad and Uncle Donnie to wait while I ran into the house, got the family video camera, came back out, set it up on the picnic table, and said, now let's talk about what you did during Korea and World War II. And I recorded that, mainly for my own family's benefit. And afterwards, I got to thinking, oh my goodness, this is such an important part of American history that we need to do a better job of preserving this. And so I ran back to Washington that Monday and immediately drafted what became the Veterans History Project. Reached out to a variety of veterans in both the House and the Senate. Amo Houghton, who is a great Republican friend of mine from New York, who's a Marine during the Second World War, and then Max Cleland, Chuck Hagel on the Senate side. And I think working together, we have the record for the shortest period of time when a bill was introduced to when it was signed into law and implemented. And today, we're proud to say that we've collected over 120,000 veteran stories, dating back to, I think we may have captured, Travis can correct me, I think we may have captured 1 or 2 World War I vets too before they passed away. But at the time we passed it, we were losing close to 1,600 World War II vets a day. And so time was of the essence to reach out to that generation before they passed away and took their stories with them. And then it evolved to the Korean generation. And today there's a special focus on the Vietnam veterans who are getting up there in age and really starting to pass away, to encourage them to share their story. I know we have some veterans in the audience today. We have some who are going to be part of the production and that you're going to hear tonight. And we thank you on behalf of a grateful nation for your service to our country. And it was really the impetus behind the Veterans History Project, to preserve that important piece of American history so that we appreciate the service and sacrifice that they made. And so future generations especially will never forget that service and sacrifice that came before them. And there could not be a better home for this project than right here at the Library of Congress. Monica Mohindra, who is the director of the Veterans History Project, wishes she could be here tonight. I know, working with her closely, this is a labor of love, and right in her wheelhouse, what Michelle has been able to create with War Words. But the crew over there, between Travis and Owen and everyone at the Veterans History Project who I've had a chance to meet and work with through the years, it is truly a labor of love. You can see the passion and the commitment that they bring to preserving our veterans' stories. And I'm proud to say that my own family has contributed to the archive here through my wife, Tawny, who is an official court reporter, and she had the idea that this shouldn't just be an oral history on video or digitized, but we need a written record of it as well. So she created a national program getting our court reporters to volunteer their time to transcribe the videotapes, the interviews of our veterans, so the library would have a written record for archiving purposes, research purposes, and whatnot. And so congratulations again, Tawny, for the contribution that you made to the project. So if we have some other veterans who have served our nation, who haven't contributed their story, I encourage you to do so. All of us know a veteran in our family, in our lives, whether it's a family member, friend, neighbor, acquaintance. Feel brave enough to approach them and ask them to share the story. I did countless interviews myself. Each one is unique in their own right. They don't have to serve just during times of conflict. Even those who served in times of peace had an important role to play in a section of that service to our country. So encourage them too to share their story. And if nothing else, make sure you get your family members to contribute. I've got an older brother who's a Marine, a younger brother who served in the first Iraq War, and my youngest son now, Matt, is an infantry commander in the Marine Corps, currently deployed in the Eastern Mediterranean because of the Middle East conflict. And hopefully that conflict will end soon, so we won't have any more boots on the ground or any more death and destruction in that region. So thank you for coming tonight. We are certainly looking forward to tonight's production. Hopefully this will get some wheels after tonight too. I know Michelle's been able to take this out on the road up in New York and a few other cities. It would be really neat to see this be able to continue and to be able to spread the production so that more Americans have an opportunity to be exposed as well. But thank you so much. Thanks for your support of the library. It's through tax funds that finance this great American treasure. And I hope you enjoy tonight's production of War Words. Thank you, everyone.
One last thing before the excitement starts. I also want to highly encourage everyone to stick around after the show for the talkback we'll be conducting with the author, the director, and a few other special guests that I think you'll be pretty excited to see. So, thank you.
We all know the slogans, the few, the proud. Be all that you can be. But how many of us actually know people in the military? They're not likely to be your sons, daughters, wives, or husbands. We don't buy war bonds to support them or ration what we have so they can have a little more. Sometimes we make our children send the troops our leftover Halloween candy, or a few boxes of Girl Scout cookies.
Tell them to stop hoarding the Thin Mints.
The troops are just like us, people. We need Thin Mints too.
They cost the same as the rah-rah raisins. No one likes the rah-rah raisins. They're okay. What, Dan? Can I talk to you something? Dan.
This long war, Iraq and Afghanistan, we finally closed it out after 20 years. 20. The war was officially old enough to enlist, almost old enough to buy a beer. Think about all the people who deployed 3, 4, 5 times while we were here going about our lives. We clap for them in airports. We thank them for their service. Oh, and we love those YouTube videos when they come home and surprise their kids at school. Oh, God, we love those. We have been taught to say we don't support our troops. But who are our troops? Do we know them? Do you know them? Probably not, because, okay, I swear, I'm not going to throw a bunch of boring statistics at you, except this, 1%. The number of Americans who serve in the armed forces is less than 1% of our entire population. There is no draft. No one has to join anymore. So who the hell would want to do something like that?
This girl walked into the student union. She had her hair all neat, pulled back, her boots were shined, her uniform was pressed. I mean, everyone else at school looked kind of raggedy, but she looked really put together. She told me she was in ROTC. I wanted to look like her. I also wanted to get out of my shit small town and my shit small life and make something of myself. My mom wanted me to be a flight attendant. When I told her I joined the Navy, she said, "Get out."
I was a technology nerd who loved to fly. What better ingredients could there be for a drone pilot?
Now, after growing up in a strict military and Muslim household, I kind of let loose in college. My dad saw my grades and said, "Hey now, I am not gonna pay for CUs. You better find another way to fund your education." So, I joined the Air Force.
I didn't know what to do with myself out of high school. I needed a purpose.
A framework for me to grow.
I believe in service, and I loved playing soldier as a kid.
I saw this movie.
A challenge, and a bit of fun and adventure. And maybe joining came from my chaotic childhood after my parents split. I need the security of the Marines. Free food, free accommodations, and everybody likes to buy you a drink in uniform.
My mom said, "Jimmy, you need to figure out what the fuck you're gonna do with your life."
I wanted to be an art historian. But when recruiters showed up around campus, I thought about my dad. He'd passed away by then, but he always felt that he was the only one of his brothers who hadn't gone to Vietnam. He was the last born twin, so he had to stay behind. I guess I was doing it in his honor. I was so small that when I walked into the Army recruitment office, they were like, we don't need that. So I marched next door and signed up to be a Marine. Heavy equipment mechanic. I was good at it too. Suck on that, Army.
Matt.
They hit my hometown in New York. I joined after 9/11.
9/11.
I didn't come from a military family, but after 9/11, I realized how privileged I was. My country had done a lot for me and asked for nothing in return. I wanted to give something back.
If we don't know the people who serve, if they are not us, then we don't actually have to see the consequence of sending them into harm's way. I am a chaplain in the United States Army. And the only thing I've learned for sure after years of counseling people is that you have to walk. To heal and bridge gaps and to make sense of the insanity of the world around you, I believe you have to walk and walk and walk and walk some more and wonder out loud. So, you're about to hear the real words of real people who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Walk with us. IED.
Improvised explosive device. It's not big technology that's killed so many of our friends. It's these.
The Radio Shack solution to the war.
They don't cost much.
They're easy to make.
Too easy to make.
And easy to hide.
They do an insane amount of damage to property
and people.
Planted in fields and buried in...
Stashed under dead animals.
And locked onto live human beings.
Sometimes they look like that or completely different.
Right? They can look like a million different versions of this. When you're in Iraq or Afghanistan, you never know when you'll encounter an IED. So you're always on edge. And that anxiety comes home with you. Sometimes it never leaves. Even when you're a stay-at-home dad in the quiet little suburbs of Colorado.
I just retired after 25 years of service. It was a sad day for me. What am I if I'm not a soldier? I joined at 17, so it was the military that taught me how to eat right, take care of my body, talk to people, earn respect and respect others. I was a Ranger, 2 tours in Iraq, and I have done it all. Even a very rare combat jump, which essentially means you're jumping from a plane straight into battle. I landed in mud, knee deep in the dead of night, with more than 100 pounds of gear on my back. I must have fallen every 3 steps trying to pull myself up out of that mess, and my heart spiked every time. Our weapons don't work when they're caked in mud, and I needed to defend myself. There were many times that night I didn't think that I would make it. It was the greatest physical and mental test I ever had. Until I had kids. Nothing has been more challenging or more important to me than being a father. Maybe because my dad left when I was 6. My mom raised 3 kids, working 3 jobs. I grew up eating candy bars for dinner. In the end, I retired because I didn't think that I could be a good father and still be a soldier. But my wife, Emily, is still on active duty.
We met in Iraq, my first deployment.
Her second deployment came after we had kids. That was rough.
Oh, remember when we told them I had to go? Isaac took it the worst.
He cried and he said, "Why can't Daddy go instead?"
I had him store my wedding ring in our safety deposit box.
She made Thanksgiving dinner in June. Since she knew she wouldn't be there for the real thing.
I don't know how you plan the holidays without me.
Yeah, I would rather plan a full combat mission against an enemy city.
The last few hours with the kids were spent like every night. What do you do differently? I let the kids sleep in the bed with us. The last thing I remember was Isaac saying, "I don't want you to leave." And something about someone farting in the bed.
That was probably Isaac.
Uh-huh.
I got tired of people saying, "Well, at least you have social media and other forms of communication. The kids can FaceTime with her." But no amount of technology replaces physical presence, the loving touch of a mother. her smile when I do something crazy.
The laugh of my best friend.
You want to know why these scare me more now than they did when I was deployed? Because her specialty is destroying them before they destroy us.
I do what's called EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal. You may have heard of it from the Hurt Locker.
What? Oh, you hated that movie.
Well, it was so wrong. All that over-the-top pulling on wires and projectiles coming up. What a crock. We explore every possible option before putting Jeremy Renner in a bomb suit to take the long walk. That's what we call it, the long walk.
The long wait.
My worst EOD experience was during that first deployment. We had to clear an area called Route Gold. It was a nightmare because we'd never traveled it before, and the whole area looked like a landfill erupted. It was hard to know if you were looking at trash or something that would detonate. So we're crawling along, shining our spotlights, when suddenly, IEDs explode all around us like crazy. And before we could even react, somewhere in the black of night, we are assaulted with a grenade launcher. The world erupted. I thought I was gonna die.
By some miracle, her whole formation managed to survive.
But one of my guys got hurt pretty bad. He lost a part of his hip.
She and her sister used to play this awful game before she deployed. You remember?
Yeah. If we had to lose a body part, which one would we want to lose?
I hated that game.
I know. It was just my way of processing.
I lost a piece of my ear.
In a bar fight does not count.
Felt like it counted at the time.
We have a saying in the Army. Shit happens and you drive on. After that night on Route Gold, I had to go out the next day and do it all over again. So I'm driving on, and then one day my doctor says, so you know, it's breast cancer. And I flash back to Route Gold. I guess I'm lucky the cancer chose a body part I could lose. I already nursed my 3 kids. I don't need them anymore.
At least it wasn't your lungs. At least it wasn't your brain.
Could have been worse. When I was in Iraq, me and the other girl in my unit used to play this other game. It could always be worse. Like,
It could always be worse. The AC could be down.
Yes! Because Iraq without AC is torture. Or it could be worse. We could be under fire.
Or it could always be worse. They could be serving whatever horrible meal at the mess hall right now.
Or you could have needed chemo. You could have not made it.
It could always be worse. You could have been deployed and I would have had to watch our 3 crazy ass kids by myself. Always be worse.
What the hell am I going to make the kids for dinner?
When I enlisted, my recruiter told me that I had nothing to worry about in terms of combat. Then the first Gulf War started and I got sent to Saudi Arabia. And I didn't want to go because I was like, hey, I didn't sign up to go to war. You know what I mean? But honestly, the funny thing is, I kind of went into the military to rebel against my family and Islam. But spending time in Saudi Arabia and later Iraq changed all of that. My name, my religion gave me credibility with senior Iraq officials. They had an instant comfort with me that the others in my unit couldn't get right off the bat. Plus, I spoke Arabic because my parents dragged me to Muslim school when I was a kid. It's basically Sunday school, but you know, just for Muslims. I didn't like it that much at the time, but I was really grateful for it later. That is why I am such a big believer in diversity. My background created an inherent trust with the locals, and that improved our ability to get our mission done. Now, to be frank with you, there are friends of mine that are Muslims who do not agree that American Muslims should be in the military. And I'm like, well, my argument is, look, you want me to have a seat at the table. You know what I mean? You want me to be the guy that says, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that because we may offend our friends and our allies. And now that I'm a colonel, I try to set an example for the younger troops by going to my religious services on Fridays. Because if you can't bring your whole self to your work, you're not going to be as high of a performer, right? It is my responsibility because of my rank to create a kind of environment that is for everybody, whether they are Muslims or Buddhists or Jewish or whatever the situation may be. If you have to hide your religion or the person that you love or who you really are, you can't bring your whole self to work. And if the troops in my command don't feel respected for their whole selves, well, that's going to affect them on the battlefield. And that will impact our ability to win.
Some guy at my civilian job asked me if being a Green Beret was like Call of Duty. I knew he was kidding, but I couldn't have been more angry. Anger in the fact that I put myself on the line for years, only to have people think my experience was the equivalent of a video game where it's fun to blow shit up, and if you get shot, you can just reboot and start all over again. If that was true, you can be damn sure my buddy Tim would be alive. Tim didn't just die. He was shot in the back. It's called green on blue violence. That's when a guy you work with from, say, the Afghan National Army, a guy you've worked with side by side for days or weeks or months, suddenly hauls off and shoots you. See, the Taliban doesn't like that the Afghan guy is working with the Americans, so they give him a choice. Either he murders you, or the Taliban will murder his entire family. Let me ask you something. What's the biggest decision you had to make today? There were more than 300 incidents of green on blue violence in Afghanistan, and I will tell you that's an institutional failure because there was no policy that would have allowed the Afghan guy's family to come on base to be protected. So when the Taliban gave this guy a choice, he had no choice. And the fact that it happened over 300 times indicates to me that we just don't give a shit. We called Tim a gentle giant. He was a huge guy, like John Cena type. He was the guy who could carry loads of equipment, and you, if necessary. When I got the call that he'd been killed, I was in the reserves back in the US, but still leading my unit. I was also working a corporate job as a consultant for the healthcare industry. If you think war sucks, try being a consultant for the healthcare industry. Our team decided we had to essentially deploy to New Jersey, where Tim's family was located. Our mission was to get Tim home and get Tim to the funeral. A military funeral isn't an easy thing. There's a shitload of paperwork. And by 2013, the death of a soldier wasn't that much of a big deal. Tim was just like any other soldier. The military wasn't in any rush to bring him home, but we didn't want Tim's family to wait. So we took over a local firehouse and made it our base. And that's where we coordinated everything. The vans to get the family around, the flowers, decided who would march with the casket. No one, not the Army or the fucking DOD, would get on it and help. I needed a flag detail, and they wouldn't give me an answer for days. And I'm like, I've got a guy who needs to come home, and I can't even get a fucking flag out of here. Once the body got to Dover to be checked and cleaned, all of that, we thought it'd just be a few hours before we get Tim home. It took days. Days! And finally, I said to a couple of my guys, just go in and fucking get him. I don't give a shit if you hurt somebody. I really don't. Just get him. And finally, we had a very nice funeral. But for me, I considered myself to be deployed at that point. I may have been in New Jersey, but I was leading an operation. I had no time to grieve. I hadn't even spoken to Tim's mother yet. And when I finally did, I had a real challenge. I didn't know how to tell her that it was okay. And I couldn't, because it was a lie. The only thing I could really say was, I loved your son. Tim was one of the best that we had. I couldn't say that it was all okay, Tim's a hero. Because at the end of the day, Tim got shot in a really shitty gravel pile in Afghanistan.
There was one woman I'll never forget. She saw her husband get killed as we were coming into her home. By the time I got to her, she was covered in blood and she was really upset. I tried to calm her down and offered her a water bottle. She said she'd rather drink her own blood than take water from me.
In a small northwest section of Baghdad, our patrols used to come across about 300 tortured dead bodies dumped on the street every week. The morgues were filled to the brim with bodies. Bodies of the dead, bodies of the people trying to identify their loved ones.
One of my good buddies has a Bronze Star and a Silver Star, but he doesn't like to talk about it. When people ask him how he earned them, he says, I was picking up body parts.
It's a weird feeling to be like, yeah, sure, it was the bravest moment of my life, but it was also the worst.
In the military, you hear stories of bravery, courage, and heroism. But for every one of those stories, there are thousands about the sheer absurdity of war. You spend your life in relative peace and security, And then you find yourself in a place like Iraq or Afghanistan, and it's opposite of anything you'd experience back home. You are fundamentally in a strange environment.
Saddam Hussein forced entire village communities to move into the city of Baghdad. A lot of those villages were situated along rivers where the locals raised domesticated water buffalo. In Arabic, they're called jamus. So most villagers didn't want to leave their jamus behind. So it wasn't unusual to walk into a suburban home in Baghdad and find a water buffalo standing behind the sofa. Like a cat, but you know, bigger. I guess it shows how adaptable humans are. You spend a year in Baghdad and suddenly a water buffalo in the house starts to look normal.
My family lived in Germany during the 3 tours I was deployed to Iraq. I missed more of my kids' birthdays than I would have liked, but when I was on leave, we got to travel. On Monday, you're hunting down one of Saddam's top guys, and on Friday, you're in Florence, holding your daughter's hand, trying to explain a naked guy sculpted by Michelangelo.
My job was to provide support with the Afghan women who weren't allowed to talk to our men. I was in great shape back then, but it was still physically challenging. One night we were in this valley and we had to cross a stream. It was too wide to jump, so we had to just march straight through. Most of the dudes, the water was knee or thigh or hip high at most. But for me, I was up to my neck in it, like literally. I was like, well, this is my life. I trudged through though, holding up my weapon and came out the other side completely soaking wet. Did I mention it was 10 degrees out there? My clothes were frozen on me as we walked, and as if it wasn't hard enough to keep up with the stride of those big guys. Finally, we got to the home that we were supposed to check out. I stayed outside, taking a knee behind the wall, waiting for the rangers to signal me, when suddenly I had to pee. Really bad. See, the guys could just whip it out while we were marching, and I didn't have that luxury. Finally, I was so cold that I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna pee. And I'm gonna have this moment of warmth, and then my bladder won't hurt, and I'll be good for the rest of the mission. So, in the middle of the night, outside of the home of a dangerous insurgent, holding up my weapon, I peed my pants. And all I could think was, oh my God, this feels so good. Like I jumped in a jacuzzi for a second.
Yes. I mean, I would hate when we had to stand guard on quarterdeck. I mean, I would have to sit there for at least 4 hours, sometimes 8. And the guys, they could pee in Gatorade bottles, but we couldn't leave. We'd have to wait for a replacement, and most of the time, there wouldn't be anyone available. I mean, this one time, I remember racing to the head so fast that I slipped down a flight of stairs. It's not, I mean, the stairs on a ship are like this. It's not the best thing to fall with an M16 stashed on you. I mean, I'm lucky the only thing I jacked up was my neck.
Sometimes we would literally pick fights with the Taliban. We'd ride around in our vehicles, and our interpreters would yell things to entice them out. Like, your God is a fake. Oh my, oh, they're so mad. They come running out, and we'd have some fun with them.
When I work as a translator in Afghanistan, sometimes, my friends, we would mess with each other. We would call and pretend we were Taliban, like... Hello? I am going to kill you. Stuff like that. We do it a lot there.
Now, a rumor spread that we were getting a green beans coffee shop on our base. Everybody was really excited about it, but pretending not to be, because no one wants to show how much they need their vanilla latte or whatever. But finally, they got it open, and it was a wildly successful for about 48 hours until our building got bombed. Now, sure, we were worried about the damage and the wounded, but all everyone really wanted to know was if the green beans was okay. 48 hours of caffeinated fuel operations, and our beloved coffee shop became a casualty of war. And man, I never got my vanilla latte. I thought I had more time.
Now, gift giving is it's a huge part of Iraqi culture. You don't ever say to someone, hey, I really like that thing, because then they have to offer it to you. And you can't refuse it because that's rude. See, I had some of my own tools from home sent out to me because I liked working with them, and there was this one hammer with this blueberry wooden handle on it. It bounced back real nice, and I let this Iraqi guy borrow it. He said, oh, that's a good hammer. I said, yes, it is. And I don't know what error in communication there was, but he assumed I was giving it to him. And I was like, no, that's my hammer. You can have one of the Army's hammers. And everyone was like, oh yeah, just let him have it, let him have it. And I was like, no, I can't. But in the end, he did get it. So, what are you laughing at?
When the Taliban invaded Afghanistan in 1996, my family had to get out quickly. Pakistan was the only safe place to go to. Me and my brother, we were working in construction, and we didn't have anything to do after we returned home from work. So we bought a TV with a VCR from a yard sale. The man who sold the TV to us said, there is a movie stuck in the VCR. But he was not sure what movie is this. I watched it over and over because it was the only movie we had. And this is how I learn English and become a translator for the Americans.
Tell them what movie it was.
Commando.
He learned English from an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie in Pakistan. You can't make this stuff up.
It's a good movie.
Our troops can't do anything without interpreters. But the insurgents still consider them traitors for collaborating with us. They threatened them, followed their kids to school. Their families were in hiding. So we created an underground railroad to help some of them get out of Iraq and into the US. There was one guy who didn't qualify because he was a general for the Iraqi army. But he and his family were in danger, and he came to me for help. Now, it was highly unusual and incredibly difficult, but I knew that if we didn't get them out, they'd be dead. Finally, we devised a good plan, but then a few weeks before we're ready to move them, the general, his wife, 5 kids, and his brother, my interpreter Hassan comes to me and he says,
Boss, we have a problem. General Falah is going to marry a second wife.
So we go to him and I say, no way. It's illegal to have 2 wives in America. Well, the thing is, I think in Islam, if you marry a widow or a woman who needs help, it's considered doing well in the eyes of Allah. And she was, I think he was also in love with her. Anyway, believe it or not, we got the general, his 5 kids, his brother, and 2 wives into Turkey. But then we had to figure out how to get them to the US. Now, they also needed to have a sponsor, and I would have done it, but I lived in Germany at the time. So I dug deep into my military expertise and did what any highly trained West Point Army colonel would do when he's in a mess of trouble. I called my mom. 8 months later, General Falah, his brother, 2 wives, and 5 kids moved into my mom's 4-bedroom house in Southern Maryland. The son's now graduated from college through an ROTC program and is commissioned in the Army Reserve as an officer in our military police. How about that?
People think that being a RPA pilot, a remote piloted aircraft, you probably know us as drone operators, people think our job is just like playing a video game. But you have to realize that most of what we do is surveillance. See, we can see what's happening on the ground in high definition video. And unlike regular aircraft, a drone can stay airborne for 20 hours. I cannot stress enough the importance of that kind of persistent surveillance. It has an enormous psychological effect because the terrorists on the ground, they know that we're watching them. Think about it. If you're a bad guy and you know you can be watched in high def at all times, I mean, do you sleep well? Can you live a normal life? Can you use your computer? Can you go outside? Read about bin Laden and some of those other bad guys, the state they were in when they were found. They're not usually getting great nourishment or much sunlight. They become super paranoid. So at some point, they're bound to make a mistake. And when it comes to actually striking from a screen, I want you to understand, yes, there is some sense of being removed, but it's not as significant as you'd think. Certainly not compared to piloting a jet at 15,000 feet. People are the size of ants from that distance. You drop a bomb on a valley, you see a big cloud of dust. You can't see the aftermath. In many ways, the experience of an RPA pilot is much more intimate. Like, at one point, we'd been observing this terrorist training camp for a long time. There were probably 100 adult males who were training to be warriors for the terrorists. I don't want to imply that we knew these guys, but we had watched them for, 6 to 9 months. We saw them running laps, hanging out. We watched them playing soccer, you know? And when the time was right, we hit them in a coordinated attack with about 20,000 pounds of munitions. What's strange is that you strike, debrief, and the next thing you know, you're on the 45-minute drive home. How do you begin to explain when you walk in the door and your wife asks, "How was your day at work, honey?"
There are questions that are hard to ask if you're in uniform. Like, how could people hate each other so much? Or how could people do that? How could I do that? And where's God when things are horrible and people are murdering each other? And what is murder? What is just and what's not just? My role as an Army chaplain is to help our soldiers navigate these questions. I never really introduced myself. Hi, I'm Nate. My buddy Brett was killed in Afghanistan while I was in the States, finishing up officer candidate school. He was engaged to be married, but instead he got blown up along with 3 other guys 2 weeks before they were supposed to come home. When his unit got back, there was no help for them. All they got was, "Welcome home." But these guys were messed up, and I wanted to help. And I was told, well, that's what chaplains do. And I'm like, aren't chaplains kind of Oh? And they're like, no, 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 they help people. Well, that's what I'm gonna be. Cut to me as an army chaplain, which is challenging, God, because I'm supposed to be like, let me pray for you. And most soldiers, I don't do that. I don't even go to church. So I went back to school, got my master's in social work. Prayers are nice, but these guys need real help. For the most part, we understand injuries as clinical. You get injured, something's broken, we fix it. But there are all kinds of injuries. And I often deal with the idea of moral injury, which is you violate some core, fundamental moral concept of who you are. That's kind of how I view my role as a chaplain, to help you make sense of the morality of your decisions, or the lack of it, or your inability to even make a decision. War puts you in these impossible situations because it requires you to make really important decisions very quickly. And most of the time in life, we don't make important decisions quickly, right? In war, you're in situations that don't make sense, and you don't make sense in them. And you become something you never imagined.
Kimbers, can we?
Oh, I'm gonna kill you. Oh, I joke and say it, but it's the truth. I have lived the life of a Lifetime movie. I should be a Lifetime movie. My life is just wild. When I met Dan, you know, he had some scars on his chest from being shot, some stab wounds, stuff like that. But I had no idea there was so much damage I couldn't see.
No one wants to hear what's happened over there. But at the same time, they expect us to just come home and poof, mesh back in with society. But how is that supposed to happen when people hear you were in Iraq or Afghanistan and they automatically think you're a psycho? Or they hear the letters PTSD and treat you like a disease? They don't understand what they can't see, and you can't see traumatic brain injury.
It's kind of a funny story how we met. I had just gotten divorced, and my cousin convinced me to work an extra job at her bar on the weekends just to keep myself busy.
We met her first night there.
Oh, you're gonna think I'm crazy, to be completely honest. So, I was a shooter girl, okay? Basically, I went around and asked people if they wanted to buy a shot while wearing these shot holder belt things. I targeted this table because you could tell the guys were military. They always want to drink and they tip pretty good. So as I'm getting everything out and collecting the money, I accidentally bump into someone, and when I turn around, it was Dan, and oh, I kid you not, our eyes met, and I felt something, and it freaked me out.
She took off.
I did. I ran down to my cousin on the first floor. I'm like, oh my gosh, Heather, I just met this guy, and if I didn't know any better, I feel like I'm in love with him. She's like, have you been drinking? Then I happened to turn around. Well, there he was. He followed me.
Hell yeah, I followed her. I mean, I had seen her across the room, and I said to the guys, oh my God, that's the girl of my dreams. And they gave me a hard time, like, yeah, right, I bet you won't even get her number. And I said, no, I'm gonna marry that girl.
Well, 15 years and 3 kids later, here we are. There's the twins, both boys. They're 6, and my daughter's 13. And then there are the two from my first marriage, but they're in their early 20s, so they don't really have to deal with all this stuff anymore.
My neck was broken in 2001, but I didn't come back home until 2002.
I had no idea his neck was broken. Well, it still is, because it never healed correctly. He was walking around in pain, but he didn't tell me for the longest time. Of course, now I can look back and different things make sense.
I didn't want her to know.
When he came home, I mean literally at the airport, I could tell something was not right. It was like his soul was different. He started having these outbursts he never had before. This tender-hearted, great guy basically turned into a bully. I mean, he threatened to kill me many times. And no one would be able to find me or prove that he did it because he'd feed me to the turtles. Because the turtles eat everything, the bones, everything. I mean, that's what he told me, right?
A fun fact I learned from a guerrilla faction in El Salvador.
For a long time, I didn't tell anyone what was going on. I think I was just in shock. Maybe scared. I mean, the military trains him to kill people.
They program us to be machines, but then they don't deprogram us to bring us back home.
Yeah, he was having flashbacks and night terrors. Oh, once he was dead asleep, having what seemed like a terrible nightmare. And I reached out for him, and he grabbed me and threw me across the room and broke my wrist.
I didn't even wake up.
He didn't.
What do you think has kept you with me?
All I can think is God. For a long time, I didn't feel comfortable talking to people about this.
I want her to talk about it.
I finally gave him an ultimatum. I said, either you get some sort of help, get me involved, or I'm leaving. We went to the VA the next day. And I said, I'm not in the medical field, but I want him checked out head to toe. I want x-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, I don't know, do them all. Well, lo and behold, that's where they found he has a brain injury. Well, they'd already diagnosed him with severe PTSD and manic depressive disorder. He had him on more medications than my 93-year-old grandmother. So he wasn't on the right medication. He wasn't getting the right treatment. And because it hadn't been treated for so long, he now has early signs of dementia.
Wasn't until 3 weeks ago that I got my first treatment for TBI. And that wasn't even through the VA. At Mass General, they discovered that the crystals in my ears were knocked out of place because of all the explosions.
That explains why he had migraines and threw up all the time. Not to mention the double vision that had him running into walls. Remember that time you dislocated your shoulder? Just imagine if you never thought that you were walking straight. I'd be mad too. And depressed and angry, and then you add PTSD, and then you add the brain injury.
They did something called vestibular therapy. And when Kim came to visit me in Boston, I couldn't believe it. I said, Kimmy, I only see one of you.
And I saw a glimpse of the old Dan, and I mean, it was just so worth this whole journey because I feel like he's still in there, you know? After everything, I still have so much love for him. I do, which I don't want to sometimes. He's been buried under all this ugly, but it's not his fault. I know Danny's heart, and I can't give up on him. I just can't.
It's not just the physical injuries, the things I saw. Sometimes I look at my kids and I think about this boy. I used to see him every day. He came by our fob and he would, talk to us and we'd play with him. I'd give him candy, food, all sorts of things. His name was Use. It's like yes, but it's Use. And he, one day he starts walking toward the compound. For some reason I was up by the gate and I saw that part of his shirt was bulged up. And I yelled at him, "No, back up, back up, back up!" And I could tell the look on his face. They packed him full of explosives because they knew he could make it on the compound. They did things like that, and I'm like, no. And this little kid, the look on his face, I kept screaming for him to stop. Until one of our guys, they sniped him. Sniper took him out, you know? Yeah, they took him out. But like the major said, shit happens and then you drive on.
Drive on.
Show them how you drive on, man.
To be honest, I don't remember when I first lost my leg. I get these phantom sensations where I can't feel my foot. So in my mind, I can wiggle my toes and flex my ankles and all kinds of things like that. It caused me to fall out of bed a couple of times because I just forgotten. I wake up and I would step out of bed, and next thing you know, boom, flat on the floor. Then it's like, oh yeah, I don't have a leg. So there just happened to be a film crew on the helicopter that was airlifting me out. They were doing a documentary on doctors and nurses at war. So they filmed me all the way to the hospital room where the surgeons, you can see them sawing my leg off. Don't want to show that at happy hour. Oh, it's surreal to watch. But in a way, I'm glad they filmed it. Because I know guys coming back missing 1, 2, 3 limbs. They just don't remember. So you wonder, could they have saved them? The limbs. I know from watching that program, I would not be here. If they didn't cut my leg off, I would not be here right now talking to you all. I was in the military for 5 years. A lot less than I wanted to be. So it was a dream, like crushed. Shit happens. We drive on. See, I loved being in the military. I did. It was just wonderful. You know, I'd go back tomorrow if I could, and my wife knows it. You see, it's let's just say this. I could have people shooting at me and I'd feel safer right here, right now, than I would do in Iraq. Right? See, you have your team, and they got your back. They would die for you, and I would die for them. That's having your 6, like the number 6 on a clock. When you have your 6, you have someone's back. There'd be mortar shells going off. Boom, 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 boom. I'd sleep like a baby knowing someone had my 6. You see the camaraderie. Just the vibe of the beauty of being together. It was challenge. It was just beautiful. I can't even tell you enough. So do I have any regrets at all with this? No regrets at all. Thank you.
The reason some of the troops are able to sleep at night is that we're their air support. We're with them, watching over them, surveying them all night to make sure they're okay. I could be surveying from Las Vegas, Nevada, and if a Marine in Afghanistan radios me that his life is in danger, I can provide air support and help.
As part of the 1st Female Special Forces Cultural Support Team, I didn't think that the men would be very open to us. But the Army Rangers and Navy SEALs were amazing. They taught me how to shoot expert, and they always made sure we had the right equipment. When I first got to Afghanistan, my kit didn't fit. Next thing I knew, this big guy with a handlebar mustache and a John Deere hat sat himself down behind his sewing machine and fixed it all up better than my grandmother could have.
Everyone on our team lost a lot of work time to deploy to New Jersey. The military didn't pay for any of it. It came out of our own pockets. But that's okay. We do it again in a second. Some of the best people with principles and values, people that you know have your back, the most loyal people I've ever met were in the military. Now here's something I want you to understand. Many of us join up because we want to be of service. And when we get out, we still want to be of service.
I am only supposed to be the translator, huh? But when I see this American from a distance, standing in this ditch, and then I see maybe 10 meters behind him, 2 people with turbans. And when I look, they are Taliban. They have AK-47s, and they're sneaking behind him, moving really slow, like when a lion is going to hunt a deer. So I run, shooting at them. I kill them.
You can face a crazy amount of personal harm because you have a bond with the person to your left and the person to your right. You know you can't survive without them, and they can't survive without you. We call it the band of brothers theory. It's another reason why IED can create so much anxiety. Doesn't matter if you and your buddy are close. No one can help you when you run into one.
Civilians are different. I mean, when you tell them something needs to get done, they're like, whatever. No one says whatever in the military.
I was involved in a vehicle turnover, which still not sure what happened. I think we hit an IED just right, and I banged my head on the ceiling. Luckily, I was wearing a helmet, which probably saved my skull from caving in. You know how in the movies, people, they black out for like 10 or 15 minutes? Now, for me, it was like I came in and out, and I was aware of everything around me, but I couldn't act. It's kind of weird. We were trapped on our side for about an hour. But it made me feel better to know that I was surrounded by friends. We used to joke that training was like a really manly spa. Like, we got in shape, we got tan, just a farmer's tan, but we did. And we'd do, cool obstacle courses, stuff like that. And whenever I wasn't busy, I would just spend time boxing. Because when I was in school, I had been bored and listless, but the strictness and the discipline of the Army were great for me. I mean, I loved it. Once I was home, out of that crazy high discipline lifestyle, I found a lot of misplaced aggression. Started getting in a lot of fights. I guess I just suddenly had too much free time. And I did start drinking way more. I mean, never to the point where I'd consider myself an alcoholic, but that's hardly a call I can make. I will say that living on the road, the 8 months that I traveled from Rhode Island to California, that is the most that I have felt like a soldier since I got out of the Army. Roughing it up in the woods, setting up camp every night, packing my bag, repacking it every day, putting in a lot of effort to maintaining my appearance and my sanity. And I mean, I taught myself how to play mandolin by watching YouTube videos, so I did some busking along the way, till this guy grabbed it from me and broke its neck. But it's, you know, I met some pretty cool people when I got to LA, and for the past 6 months we have crashed outside the courtyard of a yoga studio. And the surrounding businesses all know us by name, and they don't mind that we're there because we clean up. We get out really early in the morning. I mean, sometimes the restaurants bring us food, so our presence keeps the other homeless away. So it's this kind of cool, you know, symbiotic relationship.
My second week in country, my unit is on a mission to Wagaz. None of us have been there before, and at some point we realized that we're lost.
Tell them why, Matt.
Because our maps and our satellite imagery were 24 years old. We'd been in Afghanistan 7 years at this point, and the US military hadn't yet thought to update the maps. So we're driving along, 2 MRAPs and then a Humvee. We know there are Taliban around, and we're trying to pass the time and break the tension by singing this stupid song, when all of a sudden, I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I watched this 32,000-pound vehicle get picked up and thrown like a Coke can. Standard operating procedure in that situation is to take what they call a thermite grenade and use it to destroy the dead vehicle, because there's all this sensitive, classified information bolted to the frame. At this point, it's essentially a very big $1.3 million paperweight. But when we radio for help, the battalion commander sends a text saying, and I'll never forget this.
I don't leave behind monuments to our failure like the Soviets. If you don't come back with that vehicle, don't bother coming back at all. You are to remain in place until properly relieved.
It's what we fondly refer to as a die-in-place order.
There are 15 of us on this mission, most of whom at this point have concussions from the explosion. So that leaves 6. 6 of us to get in a big circle around the blown up vehicle and start digging foxholes, because that's how we're gonna protect it. So some of us are digging and then some are keeping watch. And the next thing I remember, I'm on the ground. I can't breathe, and there's dust and smoke all around, so I can't see very well, and I can't really hear anything. But what's really confusing is the dirt right in front of my face is violating the fundamental laws of physics, jumping seemingly at will. And as I try to make heads or tails of what the hell is going on with this Asian jumping dirt, I hear what sounds like firecrackers going all off around inside my head. And when I can sort of start to think, I realize
there is no Asian jumping dirt, you idiot. Those are bullets hitting the ground in front of you. Someone is shooting at you.
And that's when the Taliban decide to start using mortar rounds. I get knocked out and knocked into this, I'm not kidding you, freshly dug Afghan grave. And when I come to, I look down at my watch, and it's 4:50 in the afternoon. It's Monday, April 28th. I'm 26 years old, and I realize this is where I'm going to die. On the side of this stupid fucking hill,
protecting a paperweight for some colonel. I'm never gonna get married. I'm never gonna have kids. And my parents are about to get the worst phone call of their lives. I decide I might as well go out shooting. So I pull myself up out of this grave, and suddenly 3 Humvees come driving toward us like bats out of hell. The driver's side door flings open, and it's this sergeant from South Carolina who looks at me and says,
I hear you in a pickle. I brought Mark 19 grenade launchers. Where you want it?
That's essentially a machine gun that fires grenades. We call it a battle-ending weapon.
I point to the ridgeline and I say, everything up there has got to die. And I will freely admit to losing my military bearing at this point, because what I should have done was get some cover, but I wanted to watch these guys assault this ridgeline and kill everybody up there, because they've been trying to kill me all day. The next thing I know, boom, I get knocked back into this grave, and as I land, I hear the unmistakable sound of an AK-47 go off right next to my head. I figure I've been shot, but then I look up and there's this strange Afghan man standing over me in old US Army fatigues, and I'm like, who the fuck are you?
Calm down, man. I am a translator from your unit.
And as he pulls me up out of this grave, I see the bodies of the 2 guys he had just shot and killed split seconds before they would have killed me. Why did you put your life in danger in order to save mine?
Look, my friend, you are a guest in my country, and you might have a beautiful family, and you are here to fight for my freedom, for my people, for my future. It is my responsibility to save your life and send you back to your family. Later, he come to me and say,
Janice, from now on you will be my personal translator. You will work for me. I had already talked to the commander about this.
I was like, okay, cool. And from that time, we worked together. And because he was an intelligence officer and he had the important job, we detained a lot of Taliban in that year. And we had tea together, like we have always. And he was listening to my Afghan music, and I listened to his American music.
Do you know what it's like to play the Beatles for someone the first time in their life? I watched him listen to Abbey Road.
Never heard the Beatles before.
And that was nothing compared to what he taught me. Tell them why, you helped the Americans instead of the Taliban.
My mother would kill me if I fight with the Taliban.
His mother.
Afghan men can't fight without the blessings of their mothers.
Afghan men can't fight without the blessings of their mothers. Wait a minute. How come the guys on the side of the Taliban have their mother's permission? Why is your mom so much more enlightened than theirs?
My mother can read and write. She read the Quran for herself. She interpreted it for herself. She knows that what the Taliban preach is not real Islam. So she forbid me from fighting with them. Why do you think the Taliban burned down the girls' schools? Because they don't want the girls to grow up and become women who tell their children, you cannot fight with the Taliban. I've read the Quran. What the Taliban preach is bullshit.
And that's when I realized the most important thing we need to do over there, now more than ever.
We need to build schools for girls. We need to save our girls.
I don't blame the Navy for what happened to me. I blame my command. Now, to explain how pardon my language, how fucked up the command was in the end, you kind of have to understand how I was in the beginning. I was going to be this hard charger, When everyone else is sleeping and chilling, I was doing all these extracurricular courses. I wanted to get as much education as I could. I even got a referral from my congressman for the Naval Academy Prep School. I skipped sleeping on Sunday nights to shine my boots, iron my uniform, and make my room so clean that when they came in for white glove inspection, there was zero dust. You know those little fabric shavers that you use to shave off extra balls of fabric? Yeah, I use those on the bottoms of my socks. I was like, Jane fucking Navy. I love the Navy. So I'm at my first command for a few months, and this guy walks in. He's 2 pay grades above mine. I'm 19, he's 33. And we start dating on the down low, of course, because of his rank and my rank. And he tells me that he's separated from his wife. And I believe him. Of course, I come to find out that he lied, and we break up. But he still wants to be friends, right? And me, being 19, yeah, okay. Stupid. So my friends decide to go on leave for the weekend, and I want to go, but I'm like, nah, you guys are gonna party, you're gonna get fucked up, and you're not gonna be back in time. So after they leave, I get bored, and I decide to drink my roommate's fuzzy peach wine coolers and watch a movie. When suddenly, he shows up with the video of his Navy track meet. And yeah, I have to admit, it was pretty impressive. He's super fast. And then the wine coolers kick in, and I start to get fuzzy-headed, and I say, yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep. And he's like, no, come on, let's hang out a little bit longer. And he starts kissing me. Now, today's definition of rape, you'd say, absolutely that's what that was. But back then, it wasn't so cut and dry. And I think, did I not say no loud enough? Because I did say no. I did say, I don't want to do this, stop. And he just kept shushing me, saying I was being ridiculous and I was drunk and shh. When he finally left, I couldn't sleep. I felt horrible. I mean, why didn't I fight more? I'm in the Navy. I should be able to protect myself. I mean, what's wrong with me? When my best friend Rumi came home, she was like, what's wrong with you? You haven't even asked us about our weekend yet. And I just started crying. And then our other roommate came home, and she was like, what's wrong? I said, nothing. But here we go, because even though we're in the military, we're still teenagers, right? So she's like, this is fucked up. You guys are keeping secrets from me. And because she gets all dramatic, I tell her. And she says, you need to tell the command. I was like, no way. No way. Are you out of your mind? Absolutely not. And she says, you tell the command, or I tell the command. And she did. Come Monday morning, I get called into the senior chief's office, whom I love. And he says, Jennifer, they never call you by your first name. And he says, Jennifer, I need to know what happened, and please don't disrespect me and lie to me. Now this man, I couldn't have asked for a better senior chief. I mean, he stays home on the weekends off to mow the side of the lawn so that the foxes don't get run over by cars. How do you lie to a man like that? Anybody but him, you know? So I tell him. And I'm embarrassed. Like I let him down. He sends me to NCIS. An investigation begins and shit just starts spiraling. People I love and trusted said I ruined the command, that I ruined his marriage, that I should have known better. For a long time, I was that girl. And they called me liar, homewrecker, tramp, liar. Why would I lie? I took responsibility for my part in this. I owned up to it. Later, when they diagnosed me with PTSD, they said it was because of the sexual assault. I said, no. No, it wasn't. He hurt me. He humiliated me. But I could have gotten over that. It's what my command did. I mean, how do you go from being junior sailor of the quarter, the good girl, to you made the command look like shit? You embarrassed us. So not only was I held accountable for coming forward, I was also held accountable for him assaulting me. I loved the Navy. I still love the Navy. I don't even blame the Navy. It's the old guard. It'll get better with time. But until then, I'll always be the little girl who cried rape.
Every woman I know has a story about either being raped, groped, assaulted in and outside of the military. It either happens in the Army or in college. So yeah, I've definitely dealt with it. Unfortunately, there are probably certain environments or certain teams in the military where they can be isolated, so that kind of behavior can kind of feed on itself. But I think the military is really just a microcosm of society in general. And there's good, and there's bad.
Advantages and disadvantages.
Losses and gains.
I lost my leg.
I lost my faith.
My dignity.
I lost my breasts.
I lost a part of my ear.
No.
Really, John? I'm not losing you.
I've lost friends.
My sanity.
My preconceptions.
But hey, well, this situation with Danny helped me find my strength.
I found my talents.
My religion.
Perspective.
I found my brother.
My brother. And the Beatles.
I found my ability to improvise.
Survival instincts.
I found skills I never knew I had.
I found the love of my life.
How about that? Me too.
The military gave me purpose. Do you know what a miter saw is? It's one of those big saws they use in construction that makes perfectly angled cuts. Say you take a miter saw out of the box, attach it to a table, and for 18 years it makes the most perfect cuts. And then after 18 years, someone comes by and unbolts this miter saw and takes it off the table. And then they put it into the middle of a field and tell it to be an English teacher. It has no power source. It doesn't understand its surroundings. I'm not trained to be here.
I just joined up to pay for college. And instead, I feel very blessed that I found my life's work.
We found our life's work too. Janice and I started a nonprofit called No One Left Behind to protect our Afghan interpreters.
In 2009, the Taliban started threatening me for working with the Americans. I had to apply for a US visa. It took 4 years to get this. But then the Taliban made an anonymous call and told the Americans that I work for them.
His visa got revoked.
Matt was back in the US. I messaged him on Facebook to help. He called the news, and I was receiving a lot of phone calls from the reporters. The Taliban, they read the news too. One night I woke up and saw they wrote on my car, "The judgment day is coming soon." I was like really scared. But Matt was here. He was fighting for me.
We finally got his family's visas back. He arrived in the US late in October 2013.
I think when I go to United States, the government will take care of me because I took care of their government for 9 years. Matt was the 5th guy I saved his life. I was blown up 6 times. I was involved in like hundreds ambush. But when I got here, that was wrong. They didn't do nothing.
They came to the airport for the pictures.
Yeah. Yes, but once the video camera was off, Matt asked us, "Let's go get your other luggages." I was like, "Brother, what luggages are you talking about? That's everything I have. I have some clothes and the Quran. That's all we're allowed to bring." And I knew from Matt's reaction, something is wrong.
I quickly put together a GoFundMe page and then pulled one of the reporters to the side and convinced her to report on it. Then we had to get Janice a place to live.
Yeah. Matt, he co-signed me and we got an apartment. He went to his phone and sent an email to all his relatives, families, and friends. And then he said he's gonna go out and take care of some stuff and bring some food, and we'll return in 2 or 3 hours.
When I got back, I found a line of children at the door, and he was handing each of them 3 $1 bills. All he had in the world was like $500. So I was like, "Brother, what's going on here? Why are you giving these people all of your money?"
"Brother, I had no idea you had so many beggars in America. But why do they dress in such funny clothing?"
It was October 31st. I forgot to tell Janice about Halloween. Luckily, I had just checked the GoFundMe account and we had $35,000 from complete strangers. Well, I said, "Don't worry about money because I have a gift from the American people." And you know what he said?
"I cannot take this money."
GoFundMe doesn't have a refund button. What do you want me to do with it?
"Well, what about Asan and Latif and Mu'in and Jamshi and Habib?"
He was naming some of the translators we knew back in Ghazni.
"Don't they deserve to be here too? Can we use it to do for them what you've done for me?"
So that was the birth of No One Left Behind. We help translators get their visas, and then when they arrive, we give them what's called an honor flight welcome. We greet them at the airport, we present them with an American flag, we thank them for their service, we find them a place to stay, we pay for their rent for 90 days, and we fully furnish their home.
This is all donations. American government don't help. The VA don't help. I am not considered veteran.
My brother here has had nothing but a shitty hand dealt to him since birth, and there are thousands more out there.
The Taliban kill us for working with the Americans. They are killing us right now. They chop off translator heads on YouTube to warn other Afghans. Let me ask you a question. Who is going to trust Americans when they don't protect us after working with them?
I shouldn't be talking to you right now. I should be dead and buried in a military cemetery. If there's anyone who doesn't consider him to be a veteran, I want to let them know the following. He's not a refugee. He's not an emigre. This is an American veteran. Where he and I were placed in the birth life lottery should have no impact on that conversation.
It's human nature to dwell on the bad times, so I came up with these yearbooks to give our soldiers something to help them remember the positive aspect of our experience, a little psychological balance, you know? This part is dedicated to our interpreters.
It's something that a lot of veterans struggle with, feelings of guilt over leaving their interpreters in harm's way. When we're home and wrestling with our demons, it's important to have a physical reminder of the good that we did.
You ever been driving and you go to make a lane change and then there's a car there and you go back to your lane real quick and then 2 or 3 seconds later you have pricklies run through your whole body and you feel like your heart is going to explode? That's what it's like living with PTSD every day. You feel that anxiety, that holy shit, that oh my God feeling every single moment of every single day. For at least 6 solid years after I got home, I coped by putting a 45 in my mouth every single day. And the only reason why I did not do it is because I did not want my daughter to find me. But I would pray that it would just go off.
There were 3 suicides in our unit just last month. Our troops know plenty about dying. What a lot of them can't figure out is how to live.
I came out of the Army better off than most vets. And that is why I'm optimistic about my future. I don't have any signs of PTSD that I know of. Well, nothing showing. I have all my mental faculties. And I think part of it is just the fact that I keep myself active with writing when I'm bored. Because Lord knows there's been a lot of lonely stretches of time over the last year.
For Danny's 3rd deployment, my daughter got so angry. Every day for months before he left, she'd run up and scream, "I hate you, you're stupid!" We joke we'd be the ones at the redeployment ceremony. That's when they come home with the banners that say, "Welcome home, stupid!"
When I tell my wife we had a strike tonight, we both have to process that. She doesn't want to be excited for me because she understands the weight of the work that we've taken human life. But we don't want to be sad either because it's a necessary task. How do you deal with that? Even now, I'm choosing my words carefully because the excitement and the adrenaline are real. But I don't want you to get the perception that anyone thinks it's fun to kill people.
For the sake of keeping the peace and getting information from the locals, I played with their kids. We had medical gloves for searching, and I blew them up like balloon animals, passed out candy, gave them glow sticks. Well, actually, they're called Kim lights, but it's the same thing as a glow stick. It's very dramatic to think about playing with children when, next door the guys are fighting. But I have a lot of good memories with the kids.
I get a medical pension from the military, so I do a lot of voluntary work. There's a charity certified me in International Search and Rescue. And I volunteer at my daughter's school, so I like that a lot.
I started my life dirt poor. Practically no formal education. Now I'm one of the world's foremost scholars on urban warfare. You've read my articles in the Washington Post, the New York Times, even written a couple of books. Who'd have thought?
My reason for joining the military is not my reason for staying. Now, I could have walked away after 4 years, but the reason I stayed is because I feel that the military's values are consistent with my own values. And to be frank with you, I feel that the work that I'm doing now is very important. But even though I've been in the Air Force for 27 years, I believe that the military means of getting things done should be the last resort.
Whatever happens in life, I just tell myself, it could be worse. We made it into a game, but it's true, it could always be worse.
Shit happens. And then you drive on.
You drive on. You drive on. Most of us don't have a clean relationship with service. War will break your heart. I tell my units, don't serve on behalf of America. I know that's the narrative we give you, but do it because it's your choice. Do it because you feel like it's needed. But don't view it like we have in past wars where they say, thank you for your service. And you're like, I fought for you. Most people are detached from the cost of war. But how can you be connected to me if you don't know me? We have to find a way to share the burden somehow. I say this all the time. Whether you agree with what's happening with the military or not, you have to own some of it. That's democracy. When we talk about our soldiers, Marines, airmen, and sailors, what is our ownership? Do we own them? Do we care for them? We put people in charge who have no experience. It used to be like 80% of the people in Congress were vets. That number's shrinking like crazy. We're disconnected. To be fair, though, this isn't unique to the military. It feels like we're disconnecting more and more. We're moving away from each other. Look, I didn't create this world. I get that. But that doesn't mean it's not my responsibility to fix it. I'm not asking for perfection, but I am asking for a better way of doing this. And in the meantime, you know, the little secret I have is, anytime I'm asked to do an invocation, I always put a little line in there that I look forward to the day when we no longer need swords and to be away from the people we love. Yeah, one day. You know that song, One Day? One day, one day, one day, oh, oh. One day, yeah, one day.
Children will play.
Hello. Just a gentle reminder that we are doing a talk back for anyone who wants to stay.
Is that number 1? You got number 1. So I will share the wealth. Who needs a microphone? Man, we are rich in microphones. Let's get some chairs set up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Perfect. Thank you all for joining us tonight. It has been my honor to welcome you to the Library of Congress and to have gotten to know the cast and the veterans of the show a little bit better as we plan this event tonight. Now that you've heard 16 veteran stories and been inspired by their lives, I encourage you to visit the Library of Congress Veterans History Project and experience the lives of more than 120,000 more veterans who have sat down with somebody in their lives, be it a partner, be it a coworker, be it a friend, be it a stranger, and share 2 hours of their lives with them. An unforgettable story that will never be forgotten through the permanent collections of the Library of Congress. And I encourage you to get to know our veterans a little bit better and to do what we've seen tonight and to make art out of their lives. So, without further ado, let's get to know our veterans. I should also say, my name is Owen Rogers. I'm a liaison specialist to the Veterans History Project and a public historian, and cannot wait to get to know each other a little bit better.
Hi, my name is Sarah Norris, and I am the director of War Words.
Yes, she definitely deserves attention. I'm Michelle Colas Brooks. I am the playwright of War Words. And these two guys, I'm gonna make a little introduction, then I'll let you say a little something. The story of Matt and Janice and No One Left Behind. These are the real life Matt and Janice that told their story.
Hi, I'm Matt.
I'm Janice.
No, Matt, I have to say thank you for doing twice as much homework as the rest of us. So I found out about War Words because Matt actually came to the Library of Congress, shared his story with a colleague of mine who said, did you know that a veteran who told their story to the Library of Congress is now part of this show? Matt, how does it feel to go from the oral history side, the historical side, now to have your story woven so creatively?
Wow, that's a profound question. I have to thank Michelle again. I always, whenever we've seen this show, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank her because I was in the Army since right after 9/11, and I've been around a lot of veterans things. And as far as I'm concerned, this show is the best piece of anything that bridges the civil-military divide in experience in our country. I don't know how you did it, but you figured out a way to capture our collective experience in a way that the rest of the country can consume and understand. And that's the mission of the Oral History Project, right? It's to preserve that legacy so that not everybody's story gets to be told in War Words, but every veteran can potentially tell their story to the library. And so to see these two things sort of come together and mesh perfectly, it's, you know, when I had the opportunity to be interviewed by the library, I was like, wow, what a profound honor. My mom, who's sitting in the audience, she's the only other member of the family with anything in the library because she's a published author and has a number of books here. So I remember being interviewed, I was like, wow, something of mine will sit alongside my mother's in permanent collection with the library. But now that the show's joined it, it's a tremendous honor, and I just can't thank Michelle again for doing this.
I just have to say that for me, it's a tremendous honor that people like Matt and Janice entrusted me with their stories. And I set out to do this because I actually knew nobody in the military. And I couldn't for the life of me understand why somebody would join. And so when I pursued this project, I just went forward with curiosity and frankly a little bit stupidly and just asked people if I could interview them. And I was surprised by how open many people were. But what struck me was how many of them said to me, you know, Michelle, it's really nice that you're doing this, but the truth is nobody really gives a shit. And I'm very happy that with this production, I have seen over and over again that we've proven them wrong, because I do see people that care. And to find out about the Veterans History Project, to see the amount of love and care that goes into that is thrilling for me, because the hardest thing for me in doing this project was to talk to guys like this for 2 hours and then have to boil it down for 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I mean, that just about wrecked me. So I'm so thrilled that the stories can stay here in their full form and live forever. And tip of the iceberg. There are so many more to learn from and quite frankly to be entertained by.
That's true. I don't think I've ever advertised the project as this, but we are the cutting room floor. The stories are here, and you would be shocked at the kind of questions we get from researchers and then the nuanced research ideas. I would say that it probably gets as granular as, what are some stories that you have about Mahjong? Because I'm trying to prove that Mahjong came into popularity through the Second World War and the Pacific War. It gets real granular most of the time. We have people reach out and ask us, the veteran in my life, I never asked them those questions. They never talked about it. Can you please link me as a story to one of their comrades so that I can get to know them a little bit better? And so I just want to say thank you to the veterans in our audience. Thank you to the veterans who have told their stories and all of those out there who haven't told them and haven't been asked yet. I hope you get the chance to do this too. Now, Sarah, I have a question. We did this yesterday, and so now I'm thinking, what else am I going to ask? We asked questions yesterday. Yes. So, Sarah, what kind of feedback have you gotten from veterans and non-veteran patrons of the show?
I think all feedback has been very positive and enthusiastic. One thing that always surprises me, or people, myself included, are just so surprised at how funny veterans are, and I think that's one of the strengths of the play. Is it could very well be incredibly heavy stories, and there are some of those in the story, but I think Michelle has balanced so much humor and heart, and they're humans. We're watching humans. We're experiencing very true stories that make us laugh, that make us cry, and I don't know, I feel like I always feel more when I can laugh. I always think about when we were auditioning for the show, the monologue about the woman who pees on herself. We saw so many people. That was very dramatic. That because I think people come in with this idea that it's very heavy and very, and we're no, it's funny. She's peeing on herself. It's a funny story, and I think that's why the piece has resonated with so many people. I think the humor is such a big part of it.
That was actually a revision that Michelle suggested at some point. I think we were doing press for the show, and I was like, war words, the powerful, the honest stories of veterans. Michelle was like, people are going to want to laugh.
Like there's funny stories too.
Yes,
There's funny stories
yes.
too.
That it's not this morose topic. it is human. And as you mentioned yesterday, like there's so many people that you interviewed. The humor is how you get to the other side.
I was amazed by how often people did want to tell me funny stories. I mean, I went into every interview just saying, I want you to tell me the story that sort of defines service for you. And it can be tragic, it can be deep, it can be funny, it can be absurd. Like these are things that we connect with on a human level. And if we are only hearing stories of people who are warriors, who do things that we could never do and that we could understand, then the disconnect remains. And the point of this play was to connect people like me, who had no connection with the military, to people who serve. It was a lot of fun to hear all the funny and absurd stories. And then, when you look into somebody like Matt and Janice, who can tell you this extraordinary story of their friendship and how they saved each other's lives, but at the same time, telling you about Janice honestly giving away all his money at Halloween and thinking that everybody were little beggars, which they kind of are.
People were doing like wardrobe changes in the parking lot. Like, you don't understand. Like, word had gotten out in this neighborhood that the Chinoiries were giving out real cash, and like they were just coming back in line in different costumes at this point. He was getting taken for a ride, but he's not everyone gets to meet their guardian angel, and let alone the best person that they're ever going to meet in their life and befriend them. But I did. And I couldn't imagine of meeting him on a battlefield in Afghanistan. So yeah, he's. Do you want to say anything? You're the better of the two of us up here.
Yeah, he's my brother from my another mother. I love him.
I love you too.
And our story, we were able to save the life of thousands and thousands of more interpreters with our story. And I would like to thank Michelle for this. Honestly, when I was watching this, I was like 15, 16, 17 years. I went back and I felt myself again in the war, especially when I saved the life of Matt Zeller. This is really powerful show, honestly. And when I see something like this, I get really calm. I cannot laugh, I cannot smile, I cannot cry, but I can feel myself when I was back in the war. The story that was told about me and Matt, I was there. I was in Afghanistan, I saved his life. Everything came back to my eyes until I flew when I came back here. And the funny story that they told me about the Halloween. About the Halloween, all I knew in Afghanistan, when it's Halloween, you see like a couple funny faces, and I didn't know what people are coming to door to door asking for candies. When I saw people, because in Afghanistan we get a lot of beggars, and they knock the door and ask for money. I thought this is the same thing, and I had some cash, like I was giving away all my cash to those kids when Matt came and was like, "What are you doing, brother?" I was like, "Brother, you never told me you guys have a lot of beggars in the U.S." No, they're not beggars, they're asking for candies. And yeah, every day in here is a new experience for me since I'm here. And thankfully, we were able to save more than 50,000 people and brought them here and furnished their house, found them job. And still, our organization, No One Left Behind, is evacuating people from Afghanistan. All those people like me who served for this country, who put their life on danger to serve for this country. We are still evacuating them, bringing them here, and furnish their house, find them job, get them cars. And that's what we do. Thank you.
One more question. So, Michelle, you've told us about the things that surprised you about being an interviewer. Matt and Janice, what surprised you about being a storyteller?
I'm going to echo what my brother said. We've seen this now 3 times. And every single time I've had the privilege and honor of being in the audience, I'm immediately drawn back into that moment. I relive the event as if I was right there right now. But what's so powerful about it is it's not just my story that I can find similarities and commonalities, and it's every veteran up there. I know that veteran. I might not know them personally, but I know that story. I've personally interacted with that veteran. And what Michelle's been able to do, again, is I don't know how you did it. Because I've tried to sit down and interview people, and then, I'm trying to write a book about this guy's life, and it's been taking me years, because it's so hard to figure out what are the cogent points, what are the things that are going to resonate most with my audience that is going to deliver this message. And Michelle did this for, 14 different people, and she was able to find the absolute nuggets. When we sat with her, it was for hours. We were in some house in LA.
You got a ticket.
That's right.
Do you remember that? You got a ticket.
I got pulled over by the police on the way to her because I thought I was going to be late, so I was speeding. I used my military ID to get out of it. And and yeah, we talked for hours. And then to be able to sit in an audience now and each time be, how many movies do you watch where you're crying by the end of it each time? There's very few, or in a movie or a TV show or a piece of art, you can experience it, and each time you're emotionally taken back to the same place. But that's what this show does. And so again, I just want to thank you, because this now gets to live in the Library of Congress. It'll be there for all future Americans to be able to access these interviews. And I'll say this again, if somebody would please fund her show, so that we can get this a proper, run, and then into high schools and colleges where it needs to. I think it will have its most profound impact, because the beauty of this is that I will one day die, he's going to one day die, we're all going to one day die, but this show will live on. And the words that we spoke to you and that you've been able to so beautifully give to others, that's going to live on. So thank you.
So in this box, it's small, it's light. These are 5 of the stories from War Words. They're now our stories. They're part of the permanent collections of the Library of Congress. There are 5 lifetimes in here, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing them with us. Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Sarah, for bringing your stories and your art to the Library of Congress. We're grateful to have you. And thank you all for coming out to War Words tonight. Again, the story lives on. Please visit our website. Please ask those questions to the ones that you love. Get them to the Library of Congress. And if you take nothing other than what was said tonight about how much we value veteran stories, you will see it in the interviews that happen with people like Matt and Janice. I'm an oral historian. I'll wax on about this a little bit. I know brevity. Video oral histories, I challenge you to watch a veteran story. You will see them changed by the end of it. And if you turn the camera around, the interviewers change too. Thank you for participating in this experience tonight. Be safe, be well, and hope to see you at the library again soon.